Hey everyone, this is DD in the closet. I'm the DM in a closet. It's my closet. It's not someone else's closet. Well, I share it with my wife, I guess technically, but it's not my closet, so it isn't weird. Today I am drinking a fine rosé. This is a Bordeaux grape blend. So we have a Merlot, Cabernet Franc, Cabernet Sauvignon. Very lovely. Also from Canada. Am I in Canada? Am I Canadian? Who can say? So today I want to take a break from world building. I want to talk a little bit about tips for running the game. And we'll kind of go back and forth and there'll be different playlists and like how YouTube sets up. It will be like a YouTube channel. So today I want to talk about something I don't really see talked about too much, which is why I'm talking about it. So you are doing a session or you're about to do a session. People want you to do a session. You're a DM and you're like, oh crap, they want me to do a session. Do you hop online and spend hours making a map that they might just bypass completely? Do you do nothing and do it all theater of the mind and just kind of have detail to give them? Or do you do a third way? A third way, which I like to do a lot. And I find it is very effective. It's visually stimulating, but at the same time, it gives you a breather. And you don't have to worry about where everyone's standing and stuff. And basically, I like to use a PowerPoint or like a slideshow. You literally have pictures, and they could be like real pictures. And what I do, say we're doing a quest in a sewer, which we did do recently. So I'll just tell you, I'll just tell you what I did in reality instead of pretending like it is coming out the top of my head. So the players, they had solved this murder and they realized that Beholder was behind it. A Beholder who was trying to take over the city. He was bumping off the competition. These no good elves who came in. They were going to take over everything, but no, he was going to take over everything. And so he killed them all. Well, not all of them, but he had a lot of them murdered. Players found out, so he had to flee. He fled to his lair. Now his lair was set up in a way where his minions could get to him, but no one else could. So there were a series of basically locks and traps and stuff like that that someone who knew would know how to get past, but no one who didn't couldn't. So that was the challenge. There were all these rooms in the sewer, and they had to get past him. So instead of me trying to map out this whole sewer thing and have them go through, I've done that before, and it's not worth it. What I had them do instead was they watched the PowerPoint slide and interacted with what I showed them. So I'd show them static pictures. So they were about to go in the sewer. The first picture I showed them was a real life picture of a sewer with a grate with a door that was closed. And I'm like, the way is locked. You can't get in. And it was a magic lock. And as you approached, the lock said, between us, how many eyes do we have? And this was a fun puzzle because in order to answer correctly, you would have to know that a beholder was talking to you. You'd have to know how many eyes a beholder had. Otherwise, you would count wrong. And so the party finally figured out it was talking about the whole party, could send everyone in the party and plus the beholder. They finally got the right number of eyes, and because we have a big party, it was like 17 or something weird like that. And so they got past this first one. And it was just a picture of a sewer entrance with a grate and a door. I just pulled it off Google. Google Images. I just pulled it right off there. If you're concerned about like copyright and stuff, I mean, sometimes you're not allowed to download pictures if it's like owned by like Getty Images or something like that. A lot of times, if you just search Google Images, you're able to download it. And if you're using it for private usage, it doesn't matter. But if you're looking for free photos, I like to use unsplash.com, just unsplash.com. I'll put a link below. Why not? I use them a lot and they're good. Remember to give a shout out to your photographers if you use them publicly. So I had this picture, and then we just kept going. And then I had a picture. I Googled basically ancient sewer systems. And so I got a lot of Roman sewers, which were kind of big, vaulted, some crumbling concrete and blocks in places. And it was neat. And then so I was just able to piece together these pictures. And when I wanted to, I would superimpose a figure on that. We play on Roll20. So I could just take a Roll20 figure, or I'd go and find a figure of what I want. Again, you could just Google Roll20 tokens. You can edit around them, and then you can blow them up and stick them on places. So if you want them to encounter a monster, a beast, you can. And you just, when they come to a place, you can have the monster appear. Of course, I did this on Roll20, so I had the monster on the GM overview only, or overlay only, so I could just right click and change it to the token layer so it would appear. But if you want to just do it straight off and you didn't want to go on Roll20 or anything, you can do the same thing. You just might not have the ability. Well, I guess on a PowerPoint, you have the ability to make the images come as you want them. But yeah, you can layer the image on top. Like, oh, here's the golem. He asks you a question, and they all knew the riddle because I picked a really hackneyed and old riddle. The golem was just kind of like, yes, that's correct. I guess you can go through. Go. Just get out of here. So we had these different pictures layered on top of each other, and they were just real life images. Every once in a while, you won't find what you want in a real life image. Sometimes, most recent one I did with this was with my turtle bard as he was going into the temple to free the god Brovika. Believe it or not, it's difficult to find a overgrown temple picture from real life. So yeah, I pulled a fantasy one for that, and it was just a fantasy depiction. It was exactly what I was looking for. Just type in exactly what you want. You might be surprised what you get. You might get exactly what you want. So I use these pictures to really give a vivid picture of what they're seeing. Because even though it's static and just one point of view, one vantage point, it evokes so much more about the environment than if you're looking top down on a battle map. Top down, top down. So we can use these pictures to tell our story. And the one thing I will say is make sure there's nothing in the picture that you don't want them to ask about. Because if there's something weird in the picture and then you don't mean it to be there, and then they're like, well, what's that? We look at that. What's that? And you're like, oh, don't pay attention to that. Kind of breaks the immersion a little bit. My immersion. We'll get there. A Doug. Who could be in Canada? So the pictures allow us to A, save a lot of time, B, give the visual we want so we're not quite all theater of the mind, and C, it shows you can have definitively where you are, kind of like they're clearing dungeon rooms. You know what slide they're on, you know how quickly they're moving through and where they are. And so you can use these to great effect. Honestly, the sky's the limit. If someone's taking a picture of it, you can use it on desert scene. You want mountain pass. I've done tombs. There's plenty of pictures of ancient tombs, and you can cobble together things that aren't necessarily disjointed. Or if you know they're disjointed, they're like, well, that's a Egyptian and that's Celtic, but it could go together as far as the layman's concerned. So you can use this as a quick way to put together a very meaningful adventure. Because sometimes when it comes to theater of the mind, and I guess we could talk about this too a little bit, might as well, instead of making a different video about theater of the mind. The thing to do theater of the mind correctly, you have to be very vivid and specific about what you're describing. And a lot of times you have to, even if you have the battle map, you have to do it anyway. You have to kind of fill in the blanks unless you put every single piece of thing that they're looking at in the room. And even so, certain textures like, smell or, things like that have to be described. And so if you're doing theater of the mind, it might be good still to write down in a notebook, write down every room, what's in the room, what they see, what they can see, uh, and have these descriptions, have the kind of the five senses labeled out for each room. And that just might be actually a good way to go about the room, sight, smell, touch, taste, all that stuff. If they apply, I mean, obviously taste isn't going to always apply. If they start licking the walls or something like that, I lick the wall. It tastes like a wall. Lovely. So yeah, uh, my PowerPoint method, it allows for a better visual, a better structure, but theater of the mind is also viable. And it's best if to do theater of the mind when you're in a big space. If you can't, if it's just too ridiculous, like a whole city, you got to do cities mostly theater of the mind. I have mapped out downtown portions of cities. Actually, when I did the murder mystery thing with the beholder and everything, the entire downtown of one of my cities was mapped out. There were a lot of people they could talk to because I was like, hey, I can spend a lot of time on this when I'm just up in the morning watching anime and stuff. So let's make this city all fleshed out and they can talk to every single character and blah 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 blah. But that's not it's not always feasible. Like it's hardly ever feasible. So when we come to these big terrains or big expanses where they're gonna want to go to multiple places, you have to be able to distinguish. So say let's take the example of a city. Think about, you can just jot it on a map real quick and just say, okay, north is the north end of the city. We got, let's say, the military barracks are up here. That's where the wealthy live. And we also got a pretty good nightlife, stuff like that. You just throw it in there. West side of town, bad side of town, don't go there. But they have good nachos at Nacho Mama's, you know. And then on the east side of town, that's where the docks are. That's where all the rough and tumble people are, but they're a little more well-to-do. So they're like yuppie rough and tumble. So like they look like well-dressed lumberjacks, like punching each other. I have no idea where I'm going with this. That's what the east side, and in the south of the city, maybe it's mostly like municipal buildings. That's where government is of the city, and there's a lot of arts and stuff there. It's the arts district, and then central downtown is like where everything. So you plot out your city in that way. You have your quadrants, and you have this downtown area, and you just give the flavor of the city doing that, so you can detail how your city is laid out, and you should always have the staple stores in mind for people. So you go into a city and they're like, I want to go to the magic shop. That's not the time to start coming up with a magic shop. I've been there, and you're like, ugh. Fantasy name generators, magic shop, the old man's wand magic shop, or something like that. Or they want to go to the apothecary, old Batilda's apothecary. And you can go on and on. Where's the tavern? Which tavern? Is this a nice tavern? Is this a slum tavern? How much is a beer at this tavern? You don't have to go in that much detail. But you should have the staple places to go down. If they want to speak with who's in charge, you should always know who's in charge, who's the mayor, who's the city council, whatever, whoever the clan leader, the grand poobah, whoever's leading the city, you need to have that down as well. And then you're able to just kind of riff on it. You need to know your world, you know your environments, you know your politics, you know your groups. The groups are very important in cities. And then you're able to just riff on that. Now, the way I like to do campaigning, I do sandbox. I make my world and everything, and then when we get to the cities and every basically plot on the map, I always like to have basically prompt sentences. So I do one for a fort, one for a village, two for a town, three for a city. And the prompts are just kind of quest prompts. So and so's gone missing. Talk to the mayor and, eat a banana. The High Duke of Hootenanny has come to town. He needs protection. Ludi Lulu lost her shovel and wants it back. Prompts. And so you always have something happening in your city as well. And that will help you guide your players if they're just kind of inhabiting a city and like it's sort of free time, maybe it's between adventures, or they're just exploring a city, depending on how you set your campaign up, where they can just explore. And so you have things in your back pocket you can always pull out. And that helps to get the flow going. It would be interesting. I've never used the PowerPoint method on a city, but I could see it where in my mind's eye right now, I could see it working. I could see it being an effective tool for presenting a city, though it might be you could probably find pictures that are ancient, but not like ruins. Maybe. It might be hard. It might be hard with a city. But who knows? Depending on what kind, you don't have to be playing D&D. It could be a modern setting, and you could easily do it for that. So these are some of the ways I go about dealing with immersion and telling a story that is gripping and keeps the players engaged and has them know where they are. So we have our PowerPoint and we have our tips for doing theater of the mind. And just always remember that your players, more often than not, are there looking for adventure, and so they're going to be excited no matter what you throw at them. If you think something is half-assed, even if it is, you can pull it off. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Okay? So until next time, this is another meandering video by DD from the closet. Meanders a lot. I might have to start writing scripts. See y'all next time.